Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance Sexton, thank you for joining us. I know you've been real busy. Katie Roach out of Seattle. Oh, I can't see Seattle. Out of an undisclosed location near Seattle. Katie, thank you for joining us. September 21st, there's the certificates. I think you know all about those. Download those. Please do not send us an email at the end of the year asking for 2 years worth of certificates. We'll do it, but we won't be happy about it. At what level do you need to document your hours for preparing an SBA 7A loan package, Lance?
Ooh.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Okay, go ahead now.
Well, you need to document it. If you're charging anything for packaging, you've got to document it and keep it in the file. If you exceed $2,500, then that needs to be submitted along with your SBA Form 159, the documentation on what you did in terms of a loan packaging fee. But I think the mistake a lot of people make, and this used to be the case, you know, if you're under a certain water level, you didn't have to document it, but the SOP is pretty clear. You got to document it either way, keep it in file. But if it's over 2,500, then you have to submit that with your SBA Form 159.
Well, I think this is I think congratulations on the 3%. I think this is the lowest correct answers that we've got, but the $2,000, that is correct. Correct, Lance?
2,500. Yeah.
But what about 2,000?
You still document.
Yeah.
It's still a correct answer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So 3% got it right.
Now, 0, on the other hand, you're okay if you don't document. If you're not charging the borrower a packaging fee, then you don't have to keep up with it.
All right, we stumped the audience. Can you use standardized language for credit elsewhere for all of your SBA loans? Very good.
And the answer to this, the answer is absolutely not. And it was when the concept of credit elsewhere first came out, you could kind of insert, borrower needed this, borrower needed that, but you need to vary your credit elsewhere description from loan to loan. You can't just copy and paste one, basic discussion in every loan credit memo that you have.
Very good. And so what's your recommendation, Lance? What would you advise your peers on how to document credit elsewhere?
The reality of credit elsewhere, Bob, is probably 95% of credit elsewhere is proven with a lack of collateral or the borrower needs longer term. But you want to put a little descriptive information. Borrower's loan was on commercial real estate with a 10-year maturity. The SBA loan allows a 25-year maturity, which, provides sufficient or significant cash flow relief, something to that effect. Or, collateral on subject loan is this, and this. It does not meet bank's policy. One way you can vary your credit elsewhere description is by citing your bank's policy. If you cite your bank's policy, that's going to differentiate it as well.
Katie, this came about because of pressure from Congress, from the committees, from the House Small Business Committees on both the House and Senate side, to SBA for documentation. So SBA did that. Of course, this is pre-pandemic, epidemic, recession, everything else. Katie, have you heard in all of the pending legislation, whatever, I think this is sort of taking a back burner in terms of importance. Would you agree with that assessment?
I haven't hardly heard anything from Congress on this subject. So,
Lance?
Well, nothing at all. I mean, everything Congress is talking about is PPP related, forgiveness related, and funding for the program related.
I mean, that doesn't mean to ignore this, but this is not the hot topic it was 1 year ago. Finally, Katie wrote an article today. It says, are female-owned businesses more at risk of closing during the pandemic? Katie, what did you find out?
That's actually very much right. I think we have a slide on it later, so I can go in more in depth then. But basically, there was a U.S. Chamber of Commerce study that looked into women-owned businesses, and they found that women are rating their overall health of their business 21.6% lower since the start of the coronavirus. Men are rating theirs only 7.4% lower, which I found interesting mostly because men are overall rating it now at 62% good health. Women, even before the coronavirus hit, were only at 60%. So they've dropped all the way down to 47%. So that's very sad, and it's just going to affect them more.
What do you attribute that outlook or that reality to?
The study itself didn't really address that. However, I think probably a good reason would be the types of industries that women tend to go toward more. You see more women in things like beauty. Everybody knows their hairdressers have been closed for a while. Things like, getting your nails done, that's also closed. And you're seeing that, unfortunately, hitting women-owned businesses much harder.
Yeah, and also restaurants. Right. There are women-owned restaurants out there. Go ahead, Lance.
Bob, I was going to tell you something that's kind of interesting, and Katie mentioned that our hair salons and nail salons are open. And kind of an interesting observation, Bob, is my dad not only owns a Radio Shack, he owns a plethora of other businesses. And one of his businesses is a U-Haul center. And normally he has difficulty finding, how it works. You move, you leave the U-Haul truck at the local dealer. He has a full complement of U-Haul equipment now. And the reason being, this is a town people move away from, but they're moving here because things are closer to normal and they can work.
Were any geographic concentration of where the immigrants are coming from, Lance?
Well, I really don't know. I should ask my dad, but it's just that he gets populated. His U-Haul inventory populates as people move into the community, and it decreases as people are moving away. A year ago, he might have 3 or 4 trucks and 2 or 3 trailers. Right now, he's got about 15, 20 trucks and about 10 or 15 trailers out there. So, I have to attribute it. There's no other reason other than people can come and work here. There are restrictions. People wear masks everywhere they go. But a lot of things like hair salons, nail salons, restaurants are open. Restaurants are open for dine-in at about 50% of capacity. So I think there's some people moving in here because of those opportunities.
Right. Katie, you're following up on an article on the FDIC and their review of PPP loans. What'd you find out?
So ICBA recently reached out to the FDIC and said that they were looking for them to really mitigate some of the consequences from PPP lending. They specifically were asking them to exclude PPP loan balances from bank and bank holding company thresholds, as that would really help, especially in their industry. But I've seen others as well kind of lean in on this as well. But I haven't heard any more except for just that the FDIC is looking into it, and they've said that they're considering that.
Lance, you worked for the was it FDIC that you worked with for a while?
I did.
I know it's been a while. What do you think they're going to do on these PPP loans? Basically, ICBA is just ignore them. But what do you think?
Well, I think they're going to have to respond and identify how they're going to address it because, again, we've talked about this on the show. Most participant lenders thought they were going to get in and out of PPP within the confines of the year 2020. I don't think any lender's going to get in and out of PPP during 2020. And most will be happy and lucky to be done with it by the end of 2021. But this is just, when we all looked at this at first, we thought, okay, we're going to do this, and by about October, November, we should be pretty much done with it. Well, the problem is we're not. And so I think the regulators are going to have to figure out how they address these special loans that banks have on their books.
Who's our expert on Main Street lending? I haven't been following it, Katie. Where are we with that? Do you know?
I know it's still not a popular program. Hopefully they're hinting at maybe adjusting that in some of the legislation. And they did just release a new FAQ that gives a little more clarification on lender underwriting and what they're expecting there. Obviously, they just want you to focus on making sure to underwrite, note the post-pandemic prospects and the pre-pandemic, how the business was doing.
I haven't seen that, Katie. Have we released that to the industry? When did that come out?
This came out either today or earlier this week. Or earlier.
Right. Joseph, make a note. We'll include it tomorrow in the handout section, and we'll address this a little bit more in terms of exactly what the changes are. Secondary market prepayments still remain low, and again, what a prepayment is, whether a loan goes into default, but more importantly, refinancing. What do these numbers show you, Lance?
Well, I think they're low right now because there's not an incredible level of refinancing taking place. Although I had a lender the other day telling me every great customer I had is refinanced. I got to keep the leftovers, but it's the default rate is almost I mean, I haven't seen the default rate, but anybody who is in good standing has had 6 payments made for them, so the default rates are probably lower than they should be.
Yeah, right.
And the refinancing activity is starting to pick up. Now, man, the SBA 504 product, if you could refinance, now I'm just hypothesizing, if you could refinance a 7A loan into a 504 loan, it'd be on fire. But I think we will see the prepays increase gradually through the end of the year, and then I think they'll increase quite a bit after the beginning of 2021.
Lance, the refinance you're working on, are those 7A transactions?
Well, no, Bob. I mean, there's a lot of encouragement and activity in decent borrowers looking to get their real estate put on a comfortable fixed rate. And the SBA 504 product, when you do a blended rate, ends up being an exceptional long-term rate for that customer. So you're seeing a lot of real good customers migrate toward the 504 refi. Other customers, the non-real estate related, there's some SBA 7A refinance activity there too.
Lance, talk about the webinar you're going to be doing on Wednesday.
Credit elsewhere. Guys, we're going to talk about credit elsewhere. Of course, the personal resource test is not really in existence anymore. We'll talk about how affiliation impacts your SBA loans in terms of eligibility and other things. And we're also going to talk about fees that can be charged on an SBA loan.
And how to document them. Very, very good. Thank you all for supporting our new newsletter, our top 10 things the C-suite and board directors need to know. Compensation is available. Start shipping it today. Our study for 2020. And of course, our franchise and NAICS reports. Hey, I wanted to give a shout out. And I apologize. I don't know the history of this. I don't know why we have Small Business Week in September and not April. Anyway, congratulations to all the award winners, and they're being announced daily, and we will go ahead and recognize those. Lance, do we know why we're doing this in September and not April? Was it canceled completely in April? Was that the deal?
Well, I think right in the heart of the pandemic, right in the heart of PPP, we were talking about Main Street the other day, Bob, or just a few minutes ago. Part of what I think crushed the Main Street lending program was PPP fatigue. I think a lot of lenders were worn out by doing PPP loans and maybe didn't even look at it. And it's a different type of financing vehicle, but, I think PPP was probably the reason the Small Business Week awards were postponed, and probably the reason a lot of us...
Makes sense. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't around in April, so I don't know. Rachel asked the question, Lance, when you say refinancing, do you mean repurchasing a loan from the secondary market for a change in terms for investor approval, or just a straight refinance of the note?
The question, when I'm talking about refinancing,
the question is, she's focusing upon, are you buying these back from the secondary market and then refinancing them? That's the question.
No, I'm talking about a customer coming in that, say they own, 4, well, I hate to use restaurants, but let's say they own 4 restaurants in commercial real estate, and they're currently, have a 10-year 6% loan, and, the SBA 504 product certainly would offer an outstanding blended interest rate and longer term for that customer. Or the circumstance where a small business got started, say with cabbage or some other alternative form of financing, and they've got high interest rates and they want to restructure that and improve their cash flow. You can use both the standard 7A and the Express for those. Very good.
Well, very informative. A couple minutes short because that makes up for what we ran over last week. Tomorrow, we'll talk a little bit more about the secondary market. Hopefully, Katie, you're on the hot seat. We need some more information from Congress on what's happening. We're going to lay this on your shoulders.
Well, hopefully they'll give us some more information by tomorrow then.
All right, we'll do that. Hey, thank you all for joining us for today's Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.